Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The sky above planet Verdun was not blue. It was brown and gray, full of smoke and old space dust. Beneath it stood a junkyard that stretched for miles. Broken ships, rusted machines, shattered droids, and forgotten metal. It was not a place for the living. But she was there. A small alien girl with big glowing eyes and thin purple skin hid between two broken engine blocks. Her body was weak, her arms were shaking, she hadn't eaten for 2 days. Her stomach growled like a wild beast, but there was no food, just wires and rust. Her name was Neva. She was 6 years old, maybe. She didn't know her real age. She had no parents, no family, no nameplate. Just a torn cloth around her shoulders and a memory of warm hands that once held her. Now, she was just one more orphan in the dust. From the top of a tower of scrap, a man watched. He was old, human, with a long beard like tangled wires and goggles pushed up on his forehead. He leaned on a metal walking stick and wore a thick brown coat full of pockets and tools. His name was Corwin. He didn't talk much. He just fixed things. Ships, bots, whatever was brought to his junkyard. But today, he wasn't looking at machines. He was watching the little girl. She crawled forward slowly, eyeing a half-eaten fruit someone had tossed near a trash can. A lizard creature had licked it first, but she didn't care. Her fingers reached out. Suddenly, clang! A pipe rolled down beside her. She gasped and pulled back, heart racing. Corwin had dropped it on purpose. He stepped forward slowly. "Don't run," he said. His voice was rough but not angry. Neva froze. She stared at him with wide eyes. Her legs were ready to run, but her body had no strength left. He pointed at the fruit. "If you're hungry, take it." She didn't move. He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a wrapped protein bar. He tossed it gently to the ground between them. "Eat this instead." Cleaner. She didn't trust him, but hunger was stronger than fear. She crawled forward, snatched the bar, and ran behind a large metal crate. Corwin didn't follow. He just sat down on a crate, pulled out his old toolkit, and began fixing a drone leg like nothing had happened. From the shadows, Neva watched him. She didn't understand. Most adults shouted at her, some threw rocks. None gave food. Night came fast on Verdun. The stars above were dim. The junkyard creaked and groaned with wind and old machines. Corwin lit a small fire and sat beside it, cooking something in a dented pot. He didn't look around, but he spoke. "If you're still here, there's more. Food." Neva was there, but hidden behind a ship wing. Her eyes fixed on the glowing pot. The smell made her stomach twist in pain. Corwin placed a metal bowl near the fire and walked away. Minutes passed. Silence. Then, the bowl was gone. He smiled to himself, but said nothing. The next day, she returned. She didn't speak. She didn't show her face. But every time Corwin left food out, it disappeared. He started placing small things too. An old blanket, a tiny water bottle, a clean shirt. She took those as well. Not once did she thank him. Not once did he ask. On the 7th day, something changed. Corwin woke up and found her footprints near his trailer door. Not near the fire, not hiding behind trash. Close. She was getting braver. That afternoon, a group of rough-looking scavengers came by. One of them kicked a pile of scrap near where Neva was hiding. "Anything good here, old man?" Corwin stepped forward calmly. "Depends what you're looking for." The scavengers looked around with greedy eyes. "Someone said a rare alien girl's been seen near this place. Thin, glowing eyes. Might be worth something." Corwin's jaw tightened. "I haven't seen anything like that," he said flatly. The men grunted. "If you do, call us. There's good money in creatures like that." When they left, Corwin turned to the shadows. "I hope you heard that," he said. "Next time, hide better." For the first time, she answered from the dark. "I didn't know they were coming." He turned and saw her, standing, small and trembling, holding the blanket he gave her. She looked like a ghost in the moonlight. Corwin didn't smile, but his voice was gentle. "You can't stay in the cold forever." She looked down. Then, "Where do I go?" He paused, then nodded toward his shack. "Start with a warm bed." That night, for the first time in her life, Neva slept indoors. She didn't trust him, she didn't speak much, but deep down, for the first time since she lost everything, she felt almost safe. The old man's shack was quiet. No voices, no music. Just the soft ticking of machines and the hum of cooling fans. In the far corner, under a blanket too big for her, the alien girl lay curled on a thin mattress. Her name was Neva, but Corwin didn't know that yet. She hadn't told him. In fact, she hadn't said a single word since he brought her in. Mornings without words. Every morning, Corwin made 2 cups of hot broth. He drank one. He placed the other near the edge of the table and left the room. By the time he returned, the cup was empty. The girl was gone. She always hid behind the tall shelves, in corners, or under workbenches. Never in plain sight. She moved like a shadow, small, silent, fast. But she never left the shack and she never spoke. A quiet routine. On the 3rd day, Corwin left a small data tablet near her spot, loaded with old cartoons from Earth. He didn't say anything. He just pressed play and walked away. From the corner of his eye, he saw her head peek out. Her ears twitched. An hour later, the tablet was gone, and so was the power cord. Corwin smiled. Smart girl. That night, he placed a small stuffed animal beside the mattress, a strange 2-eyed plush thing with mismatched colors. He found it the next morning, gone from the bed, now hidden inside her blanket pile. Still, she didn't speak. The fever on the 6th night, Corwin heard a thud. He rushed to the corner where she usually slept. She was lying on the ground, sweating, shivering, eyes wide but unfocused. He touched her forehead, burning hot. No, kid," he muttered. "Not like this." He lifted her tiny frame into his arms and laid her on the work table. Then he pulled open a storage drawer, dusty, full of old medkits. His hands worked fast. He activated a broken med drone and hardwired it into the shack's power line. It sparked to life. Shaky, but functional. "Scanner," he ordered. Drone hovered over Neva, beeped 3 times and showed the result. Severe malnutrition. Internal infection. Blood toxins. Corwin's heart sank. "You've been sick this whole time." The struggle all night, he stayed by her side. He crushed pills into warm broth and fed her with a spoon. She fought at first, growling weakly. Then slowly, she stopped resisting. Her tiny fingers gripped his hand once, just for a second. By morning, the fever broke. Her breathing steadied. Her eyes opened. She looked up at him, confused, pale but alive. Corwin let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Stubborn little thing," he whispered. Then her lips moved, a whisper. So faint he almost missed it. "Why?" He blinked. "What?" she repeated, barely louder. "Why? Are you helping me?" Corwin didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I've seen too many get left behind, and I promised myself and not one more." The first step, she stared at him. Her eyes were wet but not crying. "I don't know how to live," she whispered. Corwin leaned forward. "That's okay. We start with learning to eat, then sleep, then smile." She looked unsure. "Do I have to talk?" He smirked. "Only if you want extra soup." She blinked, and a tiny smile touched her lips. Just a little one. But enough. Later that night, Corwin found her sitting quietly beside his workbench, not hiding anymore, still silent. still small. But this time, when he set down 2 cups of broth, she waited for him to sit before touching hers. And for Corwin, that was louder than words. The sun rose slow and red over the junkyard sky. Dust floated like golden smoke across broken towers of scrap. Inside the shack, all was quiet, until the sound of old tools clinking began again. Corwin was back at work. He wore his goggles low, and sat under a half-finished drone, fixing the arm with shaking fingers. On a crate beside him sat Neva, her knees tucked to her chest, watching everything in silence. She hadn't spoken since the fever night. But something had changed. She no longer hid. She no longer avoided his eyes, and now she watched. A new routine. Every day Corwin showed her something simple. This is a wire cutter. This is a solar cell. Don't touch that. It'll fry your fingers. She listened, nodded, and sometimes even smiled. Once he let her fix a loose bolt on an old engine. It wasn't perfect, but she did it. Not bad, Corwin said. For a little alien. She looked up at him and said quietly, I'm not just little. I'm fast. That made him laugh for the first time in weeks. Then it happened. 3 days later, Neva tripped while carrying a heavy gear. She scraped her arm on a sharp piece of broken metal. Corwin ran to help. Easy, easy. Let me see, he said. But when he pulled back her sleeve, his breath caught. Her skin had torn slightly, but no blood came out. Instead, a soft blue glow pulsed beneath her skin, like thin wires, made of light. Corwin stared. What in the hell? Neva froze, her eyes wide. She looked scared. She tried to pull away. Don't tell them. Corwin gently held her arm. Tell who? The men, the black-armored ones. They said I was broken. They cut me, looked inside. She hugged herself, tight. Then they left me in a hole. Corwin's heart sank. He spoke softly. They experimented on you? She nodded. He looked again at the wound. The glowing lines were fading, sealing back together like liquid light. Not a scar, not a burn, just gone. You're not just some orphan girl, he whispered. She looked at him unsure. Do you hate me now? Corwin stood up slowly. No. He walked to a drawer and pulled out an old handheld scanner, scratched, dusty, pre-war Earth tech. He pointed it at her arm. Let's find out what they were after. The scanner blinked, then it buzzed. Biosignature unknown. Embedded tech detected, non-human, pre-galactic age, active. Warning, genetic integration present. Subject is living code. Corwin pulled off his goggles. Living code? You're part machine? Neva looked down. I don't know what I am. He crouched beside her. You're a kid. That's enough. A dangerous truth. Corwin stared at the scanner screen. She wasn't just some lost child. She was a rare being, possibly ancient, or made from lost alien tech. Something governments would kill for. Something slavers would pay fortunes to possess. He turned the scanner off. Neva, he said, you can't let anyone see this. Ever. She nodded. Are they coming back? Maybe. He looked out the window toward the junkyard horizon. But next time, we'll be ready. Later. That night Corwin worked late, reprogramming drones and setting up new security sensors around the shack. Neva sat nearby, quiet, hugging the stuffed toy he had given her. Why did they do this to me? She asked softly. Corwin paused his work. Because they're scared of things they don't understand. She frowned. Are you scared? He looked her in the eyes. No. I'm angry. Angry at me? No, he said. Angry at the ones who hurt you. That night, as Neva slept under warm lights, Corwin sat alone at his desk. In his hand, he held a data chip. He had saved the scan results. He knew what she was now, and he knew the galaxy would come looking. But he didn't care. He whispered to himself, let them come. She's mine now, And with that, the old man began building something new. Not just protection, not just defense, but a future. The sky above Verdun turned green at dusk, not a normal sunset. It was a scanner storm, artificial clouds sent by patrol ships used to hunt things that didn't want to be found. Corwin saw it from the roof of his shack. He muttered, "They're here." Down below, Neva sat in the corner drawing pictures on the dusty floor with a metal bolt. She looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes. "Is it bad?" He climbed down the ladder slowly. "They're not here yet, but they're close." A shadow. Returns in the nearby town of Rust Hollow. The bar doors flew open. 3 figures walked in, tall, armored, faces hidden behind black masks. The bartender froze mid-pour. One of them slammed a badge on the counter. "Interplanetary Genetic Recovery Division. We're looking for a rogue biosubject. Female, small, glowing eyes, possibly bonded to human." The bartender nodded nervously. "There was an old man. Runs a junkyard just west of here. He's got a habit of picking up strays." The armored figure turned. "Then he's hiding her." Back at the junkyard, Corwin opened a hidden floor panel and revealed a bunker under the shack. "Get in," he said. Neva looked down. It was dark and cold. "But no time," he said. "If they see you, they won't ask questions." She slowly climbed in. Corwin handed her a tiny flashlight and a small transmitter. "You'll hear me through this. Only speak if I say your name." She nodded and curled up under an old thermal blanket. Then he closed the panel and covered it with scrap. The arrival just after nightfall, the air shifted. Not wind, engines. Corwin stepped outside and saw the black ship hovering above the junkyard. Its lights scanned every corner. 3 figures dropped down, tall, cold, silent. They approached. One of them spoke. "We're looking for something. Small, modified, stolen." Corwin crossed his arms. "You won't find anything like that here." The lead hunter stepped forward. "Our scans picked up something ancient, something dangerous. You've been off-grid too long, old man." Corwin shrugged. "That's the point." Another hunter began walking toward the shack. Corwin raised a hand. "You search my home, you better have a warrant." The hunter didn't stop, so Corwin pressed a button on his wrist. Zzz. A drone shot from the junk pile and zapped the hunter's armor with high-voltage current. He fell backward, sparks flying. The other 2 raised weapons. Corwin stood firm. "Didn't say I couldn't fight," he said calmly. Inside the bunker, Neva heard the buzzing and voices above. Her heart pounded. She curled tighter under the blanket. She whispered, "Please don't hurt him." The warning. The lead hunter didn't attack. Instead, he took off his helmet. His face was thin, sharp, his eyes like ice. "We'll be back," he said, "with more. You can't hide her forever." Corwin met his gaze. "I won't have to, because you won't be standing long enough to try again." The hunter sneered, turned, and boarded the ship. It lifted off into the green night. Aftermath. Corwin waited 5 minutes after they were gone before opening the bunker panel. Neva climbed out slowly, hugging the flashlight. "You're okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Better question is, are you?" She didn't answer. She just hugged him tightly. He was stiff at first, then slowly. He hugged her back. The upgrade begins. Later that night, Corwin pulled down a dusty tarp in his workshop. Beneath it was a half-finished battlebot, one he swore he'd never use again. He turned to Neva. "I didn't want to fight." She looked up. "But you'll fight now?" He nodded. "Not for war. Not for glory. Just for you." Far above in orbit, the lead hunter spoke into a holocom. "We've confirmed it. She's alive, and the human has protected her." A dark voice replied, "Then burn the whole sector if you have to." And somewhere deep inside the shack, Neva touched the glowing skin on her arm and whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." The wind screamed across the junkyard, kicking up ash and dust. Clouds boiled green above, glowing with the light of orbiting warships. Corwin stood in the doorway of his shack, holding his old plasma rifle across his chest. His back was straight, his face was calm. But inside his chest, his heart beat like war drums. He had been many things in his life: engineer, fighter, wanderer. But now, he was just an old man protecting a little girl. And this time, he wasn't planning to run, preparing. For war inside the shack, Neva sat cross-legged beside the battlebot. She was watching as it came to life, its eyes glowing red, gears shifting into place. Corwin had been working on it all night, bolting armor plates, rewiring weapons, and installing a targeting system he swore he'd never use again. "You named it?" she asked softly. Corwin grinned. "Old thing's called Hobble. Moves like it has bad knees but hits like a meteor." Neva smiled faintly. "Like you." He raised a brow. "You saying I'm slow?" She shook her head. "I'm saying you don't fall." He paused, then nodded. "Let's keep it that way." The sky breaks at dawn. The sound of engines roared across the sky. Corwin looked up. His old war instincts told him the truth instantly. Drop pods, heavy class, full strike team. The ships didn't land gently. They slammed into the dirt outside, the junkyard sending metal and rock flying. 12 black-armored soldiers stormed out, guns ready, eyes scanning. And behind them, a tall figure in gold-trimmed armor stepped forward, the same lead hunter from before. "Bring me the girl," he called out, voice amplified across the junkyard. "She is not yours," Corwin replied through his loudspeaker. "And neither is this place." The first strike. The hunters charged in, expecting rust and scrap. What they got was hell. Corwin's modified drones dropped from above, spraying stun rounds and flame. Turrets hidden inside old washing machines sprang to life. The battlebot, Hobble, rose from the shadows, its arms launching shockwaves that sent attackers flying like leaves. Corwin moved like a soldier reborn, shotgun in one hand, grenade launcher in the other. He fought with fire in his eyes. He didn't care how many they were. They would not touch her. Inside the shack, Neva crouched in the bunker, eyes closed, hands shaking. She could feel the energy in the air, the sounds of blasts, screams, metal grinding. Suddenly, silence. Then, a voice. "Little one," said the hunter's voice through the speakers. "He can't protect you forever. Come to us. You belong to something greater." She opened her eyes. And in that moment, something inside her changed. The glow returns. She stepped out of the bunker. Her body pulsed with light. Her skin shimmered like liquid crystal. Her hair lifted slightly in the charged air. She walked to the edge of the doorway and looked out. Corwin was on one knee, bleeding, still firing. The lead hunter raised his weapon toward him. "No!" she screamed, and the air exploded. The hidden power A wave of blue light shot from her body, knocking every attacker to the ground. Their weapons fried, their armor cracked, even the hunter dropped to one knee. Corwin looked back, stunned. "Neva." Her eyes glowed pure white. She raised her hand and the battlebot obeyed without a word, fighting beside her like it was part of her mind. She wasn't just a child anymore. She was the key to something ancient, something meant to protect, and she had chosen him. The end of the fight, within minutes, it was over. The remaining soldiers ran. The lead hunter crawled to his ship, whispering into his comms, "She's not just the asset, she's the weapon." Then he was gone. Smoke rose, sparks flew. The junkyard was quiet again, but it was still standing, and so was Corwin. Barely. The moment of truth, Neva ran to him. He was hurt, burned, bleeding, smiling through the pain. "I told you to stay hidden," he said. She knelt beside him. "You didn't raise me to hide." He coughed a laugh. "Raised you, huh?" She nodded. "You're all I've got." He reached out and gripped her hand. "No," he said, eyes closing. "You're all we have." As the junkyard burned softly under the rising sun, a new message was being whispered across the galaxy. A human old man stood against a strike team, and beside him, a glowing child who wasn't just rescued, she rescued him. And together, they had just begun to change everything. Smoke still rose from the junkyard's broken towers. The fire had stopped. The enemies had run. But Corwin was down. He lay in the dirt near the shattered front gate, blood soaked into his coat. One hand clutched his ribs. The other still held his rifle, empty, bent, useless. Above him, the sky turned gold as morning arrived. Neva dropped to her knees beside him. Her eyes were glowing again, but this time, not from fear, from grief. The old man's breath. "You stayed," he whispered. She nodded quickly. "You told me not to hide. You listened to me?" He tried to laugh, but it turned into a cough. Every word, she said. He looked at her, barely blinking. "You were brighter than the sun out there." She held his hand. "I didn't know I could do it." "You did it. To protect me." Neva's voice cracked. "You protected me first." Corwin smiled faintly. "Then we're even." His eyes began to close. "No," she whispered. "We're not." Something awoke. Tears rolled down her cheeks and hit the ground. Where they landed, the dirt glowed. The energy inside her began to rise. Hot, golden, heavy. Not like before. Not just power. This time, it felt like life itself. She closed her eyes and something ancient inside her answered. The healing light from her fingertips. A warm glow passed into Corwin's chest. His breath caught. His wounds pulsed blue. Broken tissue began to knit together. He gasped softly. "I can feel it." Neva didn't speak. She just focused. Energy moved through her, surrounding him like water, like wind, like memory. The power she carried wasn't just for destruction, it could also save. Corwin's eyes open. A full minute passed. Then 2. Then, with a long, deep breath, Corwin sat up. He looked at her with new eyes. "You brought me back." Neva wiped her eyes. "You said I was meant for something." He nodded slowly. "I was right." Across the stars in a command ship above the system, a screen lit up. A masked figure watched the footage. Neva glowing, healing, standing tall in the ruins of the battlefield. "She's not a weapon," he said. A voice behind him answered. "Then what is she?" The figure turned slowly. "She's a miracle." And in silence the galaxy began to shift. Back on Verdun, Corwin stood again, shaky but alive. Neva sat beside him, tired but smiling. She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't want to run anymore," she said. "You won't have to," he replied. "Not while I'm standing. But they'll come again." He nodded. "Yes, and we'll be ready." The memory box. Later that night, Corwin opened a locked drawer in his workshop. Inside was a small metal box, rusted, cold. He placed it in Neva's hands. "What is it?" she asked. He answered slowly. "Something from Earth. A memory vault. It records thoughts, feelings, people you don't want to forget." She stared at it. "You want me to remember you?" Corwin shook his head. "No. I want you to remember yourself. Who you are, what you did, what you'll become." That night, under the cracked stars of a forgotten planet, a little alien girl held a memory box to her chest. She had no parents, no name in the stars, no place in history. But now, she had something more. She had a purpose. She had a family. And inside her was the light that could change the universe. The junkyard was no longer just piles of trash. Now it was a fortress. Solar shields rose above the walls. Friendly drones hovered like birds. Lights glowed gently through the night. And at the center of it all, near a small blue garden, stood a new home, half metal, half stone, hand-built with care. Inside, laughter echoed, and that laughter came from Neva. A morning like no other, she ran across the open yard, her boots kicking up dust. Her hair was tied with old wire strands, and her patched vest carried a small toolkit. Corwin stood at his workbench, welding a new water pipe. "You're late," he said without turning. "I was teaching Hobble how to wave." She grinned. Behind her, the battle bot gave a slow, crooked wave with one big arm. Corwin chuckled. "Still slower than me." Neva stuck out her tongue. "But stronger. Only because you fixed him better than I ever did." A visitor arrives later that day. A ship landed quietly near the gate. Not a warship, not a patrol, just a simple traveler's shuttle. A woman stepped out, tall with soft blue skin and eyes full of wonder. "I heard stories," she said, "about a girl with light inside her, who burned an army, who healed a dying man." Corwin raised an eyebrow. "Depends who's asking." The woman bowed her head. "I'm not a soldier, I'm a historian." She turned to Neva. "And I came to ask you your name, so I can write it down." The naming for a moment, Neva froze. She looked at her hands, then at Corwin. Then she stood tall. "My name is Neva. I don't know what I was made from. I don't know why I glow, but I know I belong here." She walked to Corwin and held his hand. "I want to take his name." The woman smiled softly. "Then what shall I write?" Neva answered clearly. "Neva Corwin, daughter of the junkyard, defender of the forgotten." Corwin blinked, then rubbed his eye quickly. "Dust," he muttered. "The word spreads." The historians' recordings reached across systems. Soon messages began arriving at the junkyard, not from bounty hunters, not from kings, but from other lost ones, orphans, half-machines, runaways, broken bots, even wounded veterans who had nowhere left to go. They all asked the same thing: "Can we come?" And Neva always gave the same answer: "Yes, come home." The junkyard grows. With every new arrival, the junkyard changed. It grew into something more than a scrapyard. It became a village. Children ran between towers of old ship parts. Former soldiers taught them how to fly drones. Broken droids were repaired and renamed. And Neva walked among them like a light everyone could see. Not a queen, not a god, just a girl who cared. Corwin built a school out of starship hulls. He hung a small metal sign over the door. It read, "The House of Second Chances." The final scene one night, Neva sat alone on the roof of their home watching the stars. Corwin joined her, 2 mugs of hot broth in hand. "Thinking big thoughts?" he asked. She smiled. "I was wondering how far this light in me reaches." He nodded. "Farther than I ever did." She looked at him. "Do you think I was meant for something big?" He sipped his drink. "Kid, you already did the biggest thing anyone can do." "What's that?" "You gave hope to others by surviving." Neva leaned her head against his shoulder, and for once the stars above didn't feel so far. She was left to starve in shadows. They called her a mistake, but a human gave her food, gave her a home, and in return, she lit the way for 1,000 more. Her name is Neva Corwin, and she is no one's weapon. She is everyone's hope.